Some would say there's a crisis of student engagement in higher education, and a lot of it can be traced back to hectic student lives. This week, the rise of part-time and commuter students. Let's take 10 and take a look. On the road ahead for higher ed, there are clear signs that students are steadily evolving, or perhaps you might say devolving, from the traditional 4-year full-time residential undergraduate student concerned about the student experience on campus to a commuter student focused on the credential to advance their career. This has always been true for most students at community college and most working adults, but it's increasingly the reality for the majority of college and university students, regardless of age, on campuses across Canada.
Many of our students have children. Many of them are looking after parents. Many as 15% come to us with a disability, particularly a learning disability.
I did think that I would be able to stay through college and as well as work, as well as, raise a baby. And then it all came down to me, I can't do this.
Right now I'm working from 7 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. It doesn't allow me all the time I need to study for school.
I definitely think more can be done to support students who are struggling in school. To not have resources available to you to make sure you do your best and you give your all is just not fair.
By now you're rightly wondering, what is Ken talking about? StatsCan data and your own registrar's office will probably tell you there's been no boom in part-time student enrollments over the last 15 years. But of course, statistics often distort the truth. Many college and university students are what I'd call invisible part-time students. The U.S. Department of Education even charts them as part-time students who look like full-time students. They register full-time for programs, perhaps to qualify for financial aid, residence, or other programs, but they do not give their studies full-time attention. Across North America, the percentage of full-time students who are also working steadily increased for 4 decades, from just over 20% in 1977 to more than 50% today. U.S. data has tracked a steady increase in students working 20 to 34 hours a week at paid employment. As the average Canadian's work week has declined to 33 hours, these students are essentially working full-time. Some argue that rising tuition means these students increasingly have to work in order to survive financially.
Can't afford anything anymore. Trying to get myself a university degree, but I'm just getting poor.
Feels like my life has been a mission just to pay off this incredible tuition, and now intuition is telling me that I should be wishing for a paying position. Because I'm absolutely broke, I can't buy a beer or a Pepsi or a Coke. So I've been drinking a lot of tap water. When I shower, the water never gets any hotter.
All the things you wanna try, the things you wanna buy, but the price of education is bleeding you dry.
But it's also true that students overwhelmingly regard work-integrated learning as the most valuable part of their academic experience. So whatever the cause, as students increasingly try to juggle full-time studies with employment, they start to cut corners. I mentioned in a previous episode that a British study found the rate of sleep deprivation among college students has actually tripled since 1978. More than one American study has found that the amount of time spent on coursework outside of class has declined precipitously since the 1960s. At an average of just 15 hours a week, students are spending about half the time studying that most universities claim to require. In a 2013 report on the first-year student experience, York University concluded that unreasonable expectations of academic workload were a key indicator for potential student failure. I'm convinced that this steady shift towards invisible part-time students is a key driver of the student engagement crisis on campus. In 1998, the National Survey of Student Engagement, NSSE, was conceived, and since then more than 1,600 colleges and universities have used this tool to measure student engagement. NSSE uses a number of criteria to measure engagement, which it defines as the amount of time and effort that students put into their studies and other educationally purposeful activities. Low student engagement seems particularly prevalent on Canadian university campuses, and NSSE has highlighted the problem. On many metrics, Canada's U15 show measurably lower levels of student engagement than their Carnegie Research counterparts in the US. Canada's NSSE disadvantage is probably fueled in part by higher levels of student participation, lower tuition, and larger class sizes. But even Robert Campbell, president at Mount Allison University, has observed the character of undergraduate education has deteriorated in our lifetimes. Next time, we'll take a look at the many ways colleges and universities are adapting to better serve part-time and commuter students. Thanks again for taking 10 with me. I hope you'll take a moment to like this video, to leave a comment, or even to subscribe to this podcast on YouTube, iTunes, or by email. I hope to see you next time. But before you go, here's another example of a pet-themed campus video from Durham College, in case you missed it.
That's it. I should go to Durham College. Yo, Damon.
Odie, you're a cat. You're not supposed to be talking.
Damon, please.
Odie, I don't want to go back to the psychiatrist.
Yeah. I want to enroll in Durham College. I heard it's awesome.
That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. Let's do it!
Yeah!
Yeah! Cool.